Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Paranormal Karen. We are in the end of February. Holy cow. And I'm doing kind of a weird split episode because I wanted to do a really short one on the tower number 7 from 9/11. I'm going to check my notes and everything, but there's a lot of new evidence out, and I found that very interesting. And I've been very conspiracy-esque, if you are familiar with my Patreon, which you should join to support the show if you want. $3 a month or $5 a month can get you podcasts or energy readings for the day, whole bunch of stuff. If you want 2 separate podcasts that are just me and what I'm talking about, that's $5, or you can take our tarot classes, which my tarot class, once a month, we do a live reading where if you're not getting a lot of experience, you can come on a safe space to try all your new modalities, reading tarot, reading for strangers, blah, blah, blah. Enough said. Today's guest, all my guests are very patient. I don't know if I have to say that, but it takes 100 emails. I hear you laughing already, Stephanie.
Oh,
it's why I'm so far ahead, because I'm so far behind. Does that make any sense?
Totally. Completely.
Well, my friend Stephanie Hansen is here, and we are going to get to these beautiful postcards that are in my hand, but because that's why I wanted you on the show. And anyways, that's a longer story. Steph, tell me, how did you get into, shall we say, the metaphysical paranormal world? Who are you? That's my question.
Ooh, that's a good question. Oh gosh, so thanks for having me, Karen. It's very exciting to be here.
Good.
I would say that you have been part of that path for sure.
Guilty.
Do tell. So I would say that let's see. I'm a counselor by trade, and that is, I would say, as opposed to like psychology, I'm much more into like the art of relating to on an interpersonal and an intrapersonal dimension. And I would say that it has not been a natural progression, let's say, into I didn't grow up like seeing spirits like some of my friends, for example.
Yes,
right? Like
you're like me, and you're my favorite kind of therapist, which is someone that isn't just talk therapy, someone that's going, we need a little more here, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Well, that's great to know. I didn't know that about you, Karen, that you were also in this kind of vein, like not like just naturally gifted with these gifts.
No,
kind of person.
Yeah, I had a couple of experiences, but I keep listening to, especially in England, they're always very proud of, I was the 7th daughter of the 6th dead person or something. They always have a long lineage, and I'm always like, nope, read a lot of books.
Right.
That's all I got.
Yep. So I would say my first like reading that I ever went to was in Denver. I live in Wyoming, so I'm quite close to Denver. And there was a place there called ISIS. It's like it's a big shop. It's a metaphysical shop. And so my friend and I went for a reading with a woman named Carol Pollard, who I still love very much. And just started to. I was very easily, let's say, tuned into when someone was channeling or guiding me or connecting to guides. I don't really have, well, I think I do have a skeptical bone in my body, but it didn't come out in those cases. So I think that I was very I just kind of knew that it was true for me.
I appreciate that you said that, because here's the thing. I will often say I'm not skeptical, and I don't mean that like I believe everything, because I don't. But I think skeptic has become like a dirty word. Like a skeptic is a party pooper, rain on the parade, right?
It is. And it's funny. So in IFS therapy, that's the modality of therapy that I practice, this internal family systems model that acknowledges parts of us, and the skeptic is a part that comes into the room a lot. And I always give it a very hearty welcome, and always say that I'm really, and I mean that I'm really glad it's here, because they're the bullshit callers.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones who really have the discernment of like, is this resonating for me, or is this not? Is this going to work for me, or is it not?
Yes. And I like that, as long as they don't go too far. When you get into the paranormal world, they can be like, I believe nothing. And it's almost like if somebody sees a UFO and they're a cop, oh, but he's a police officer. Because I guess we figure police officers would feel the worst if they lied about a UFO. I don't know. But anyway, yes. Okay. So it comes in. So you went for this reading, and that's actually kind of how it happened for me with my teacher, Jacqueline Valdez. It was like, oh, this is it. That was me, everyone. You didn't get a text. Like, oh, this is it. This is what this is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how that woman made you feel.
Yes, definitely. And so, go for guidance. And then soon after I went for my first reading, I think then my life started to kind of fall apart. Of course, that's probably the way it works for many people. And, my husband at the time said he was going to leave me. And then it kind of, I had that kind of awakening journey. So it kind of made me dive into my own healing and my own, getting to know my whole internal system, and then also interacting with guides and benevolent forces, and being kind of like, I did really feel the propelled on what I learned was my path, not really knowing any of that language at that time.
Wow.
So it's been a real support. Let's say the metaphysical spiritual has been right alongside the therapy, and also I'm a yoga practitioner and instructor, and so all of that together, that's kind of what I do too, is like, let's bring it all in and mash it all up.
I agree with you, though. I agree with you bringing it all in. And also, it is interesting. Sometimes it does just start with one reading, and then you're like, there's a whole nother world out there. There's a whole nother side, right?
Very, very much so, yeah.
So is that a particular husband gone, or is that husband back, still there?
No, he's gone. He's out of here. I mean, he's living his life in the way that he needs to, which is wonderful. And then I, soon after that, found a new partner, actually quite soon after that, found a new partner who we are very much aligned, and big fans of all things metaphysical, spiritual. Love your podcast. I think we found you through Jessa Reed.
Yes.
As well. So, yeah.
Wonderful. So now, did you, this is kind of a weird question. We're just riffing, folks. So sometimes I go, I'm not a preparer. I'm like, let's just talk.
Excellent.
Did you find that when you sort of went back to being a therapist, that you were like, okay, wait a minute, I can do more here? Or was there a bridge there between before sort of feeling metaphysical and after?
Yeah, it all kind of happened at once. I was a young therapist, like really just starting out when this all was happening. So I feel fortunate in that I didn't have a giant like shift of gears that I had to do.
Nice.
So it really was quite mashed up from the beginning. And I know that there are lots of folks who have struggled, who have like been in woo closets for a long time. I didn't find myself in that boat for some reason, and I'm not quite certain of why that has been, but I've just my excitement about this stuff comes through, and I sort of have the skill of like being able to weave it in. And like, for example, there's a Bashar quote that I heard not too long ago, who is channeled by Daryl Anka, and he said something like, the only place that the past trauma, exists is now, in this present moment, in your memory, in your body. And so that means that we have a lot of agency in terms of being able to reprocess it and heal it, sort of as if it never happened without, and so I use that quite a lot in therapy, and I don't necessarily, sometimes I quote Bashar, and sometimes I sort of
You're like, hey, I heard a good quote.
I heard a good quote.
Not from a guy channeling. It was not from a guy channeling. Just, I heard a good quote.
Just a guy who said a thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. It's funny. I can't wait. I'm going to be having on, all this is just connected, but today I did my first SSP session, which is for your nervous system.
Yes.
Yes.
I do know about SSP. Wonderful.
Literally should just be free for anyone that lives in Utica. I'm just saying. Utica, the city should pay for SSP for everyone. They should. But
that's a good mission,
yes.
Karen. I think you should make that happen somehow.
But it's fascinating, like what that quote with Bashar and what lives in our body and where they match and all that stuff. So I can't wait to have that podcast on too. Now, so you sort of, and you didn't have, like, sometimes when people talk about their awakening, I understand what they're going through, but I feel like I was always one foot in front of the other. I was always one foot there. Like, I couldn't believe that people didn't go to psychics or didn't believe in ghosts. Like, every side I'm afraid to say it, and I'm the opposite. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Did you sort of have that? Well, you know what else? This is a really weird thing, and I shouldn't be talking about me because I'm interviewing you. I feel like sometimes I say things with such confidence, like, yeah, there's ghosts, that's you know what I mean? It's not like, hey, do you believe in ghosts? That it gives me some sort of authority. But it is how I feel. I'm very confident about it. Did you have some people have awakenings where, like, the world falls apart. You didn't have anything like that, right?
No, I didn't have, like, the disillusionment with reality or anything like that. I had the, like, oh my God, I thought I was gonna, retire and have all this money with this person. And then, like, I looked at the bank account numbers and I was like, wow, that's really unbelievable. Like, so those kinds of things, in the falling apart. But no, similar, I would say to you, Karen, I definitely have always been,
one foot in,
presented with, one foot in, and, like, presented with confidence, and, like, and maybe not even like, I can't believe you don't believe it. Not that I heard that exactly from you, but more of a, like, hey, I bet it's something that is hard to believe for you, but I am all in, and listen to how cool this is. And just kind of talking in a way that's like, I've got this reality. It's really cool. I love it. How about you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of way.
I have had people kind of rub me the wrong way when they got really like, no, you're stupid, but that's another story. No one likes that. So, and this is another thing that's interesting, because you told me about this club, Power of 8 in Wyoming, but I have to say this, small places. I think one of the best shamans I've ever been to is here in Utica. Like, I go to her once a month, but I have a lot of clients in places like Wyoming and Kentucky, and there are these really great pockets of metaphysical stuff. And you found your pocket, didn't you?
It did. Yes, very much so. It makes it really hard to imagine leaving, though. Probably like Utica. I mean, Laramie, Wyoming is quite a, desolate, isolated place, especially for like 9 months of winter. So there are times where, my partner and I, who are both from here originally, we both say, like, oh gosh, wouldn't it be great to be somewhere else? But it's the community and the, especially this Power of 8 group that we started. And Power of 8, actually, the practice comes from Lynn McTaggart, who did a lot of research and wrote a book about this kind of phenomenon or this experiment, I would say, that she developed. And I'm not sure in cooperation, it's been a while since I've looked at the book, but it is an experiment where, let's say, I think it's like 6 to 12 members, but she kind of worked with the Power of 8 members coming together on a regular basis. Our group meets weekly. And we started in 2020 over Zoom. We were all kind of isolated. And it was something that I heard about at an IFS conference, the Internal Family Systems Conference. And since I had heard about it, I had kind of had in the back of my mind, like, oh, this would be really cool to start. And then we started it, and we've been going, since 2020. Wow, that's sort of a long time. But we get together and then we have moved through different iterations of, we choose a kind of a collective focus during the pandemic. Sometimes it had a lot to do with like, okay, can we get the kid vaccines out, please? Like we all have young kids. So can we please focus toward that? And at the beginning, it was a lot of focus on kind of the external, like changing the external circumstances, because we were all really freaked out and afraid. And it's really interesting because over time, as we've gathered and set intentions and meditated, and then like one of the coolest parts is like after the meditation is sharing, what kind of came forward for all of us. And it's been super weird and wild to have this kind of like, now we all have like certain guides that kind of float in and out of consciousness of the group, So like one time somebody will be, there's one person who really has contact with some kind of ancient indigenous guides. And then they will come into my consciousness and they'll come into, float through the group.
So the group comes in with an intention.
Yep.
Okay. Let's say, since we'll just pick something that's in the air, let's say, the intention of, best for, that's too big. I don't want to pick that. Let's say, you want to
Nothing's too big, Karen.
Let's say it was Israel-Palestine. We want peace with Israel-Palestine. And basically you all get together and you all meditate on how that would happen, or it will happen, or
just that it will happen. I mean, getting out of the way of the how and more the what.
Okay. Yeah. So you get into the what needs to happen, or what will happen?
What. Right. And what our intention is for it. So at first it was a lot of like, for example, peace between Israel and Palestine. Boom, big intention. Like, I don't know how it's going to happen, but like, let's just intend for that. Then it kind of developed like, then we were getting into, some other circumstances in the world. And finally it kind of developed that many times we would talk about, like, okay, here's what we're intending, but also then let it like going into like the intention became more of for the greatest good, right? And not really having an awareness necessarily or a vision of what that is, but just trusting or intending for that.
Right. So it's kind of like the power of the group is what. So 8 people doing it is better than one person doing it. Let's say
there's something about the number. Yeah.
So and is it so? If let's say one of your members has cancer, you can all do that meditation for that person, correct?
That is one of the primary uses of it. Yeah. Is for the healing of the individual members of the group as well. So there are a lot of folks who use this really more primarily for like physical ailments and diagnoses. Okay. Yeah. So like cancer. So yeah, that's a really powerful one. And we've cycled through that too a lot. Sometimes, several times per year, we'll say, okay, we're going to go through everybody's going to have a turn to receive the healing.
Oh, I like that. Like a Reiki circle, but more.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. We're going to take a break real quick and we're going to get back to the thing that really caught my attention, and we're going to start talking about that. Hang on, folks. We'll be right back.
Are you a seeker who craves a life of authenticity and freedom, but can't seem to get unstuck from experiences of duality? My name is Z, and I spent years stuck in victimhood, craving enlightenment, but trapped in a cycle of 2 steps forward and what felt like 100 steps back. I felt like I was drowning in fear and shame until I started learning about the nervous system. It turns out that while we are spiritual beings, we are only able to be here because of these physical bodies, and the nervous system is just trying to keep us alive by bringing us back to fight, flight, freeze responses. We can get stuck in these defense states, or we can gain resilience by developing a respectful and trusting relationship with our nervous system. If you're ready to learn more, check out my YouTube channel and join us for online coaching and courses by going to www.anexperiencer.com. That's anexperiencer.com. See you there.
Okay, everybody. Now, I thought this was such a great idea, and Stephanie sent me some of these, and they are the Stay in Touch postcards, but they're a little more than that. Steph, tell everybody what they are and how you came up with this idea.
Okay. They came out of a course of getting into the Artist's Way. Have you ever done the Artist's Way?
I have, and you know what? I'm bad about it, but I think everyone should do the 3 morning pages.
It is amazing. It is such an amazing progress.
If there was anything from that book, that was its genius.
Yep. That's the most famous practice from that course, of course. So I don't know why I started that, but I did. And out of my body, out of my being started to emerge, poetry, which one of the cards, there's the card, Open Your Hand. It's the Perfectionist poem. May I read it? Is that okay?
Go ahead. I got it. I think I got it. I got my rage. My rage. That's my favorite one in Utica.
Oh, I like that one too. So the Perfectionist one is open your hands. Let go of the belief that this is the only life. The stakes are too high. Let this be a lifetime of naps, of pleasure, of shopping or putzing, fishing, laughing, wasted time. Send the perfectionist of your ancestors home to the light. Let them rest. The Creator delights in it all.
That's beautiful.
Oh, thank you very much. So this was the very first poem, and I had just been doing some morning pages. I had no intention of writing poetry at all, And then I was sitting in the hot tub one night after kid bedtime, and this just came to me, and I had to rush in, out of the cold and throw on a towel. And my husband was like, "What's going on? What's wrong?" I had come back after 5 minutes. I was like, "It's a poem." And he's like, "Okay, write it down."
I kind of like that intensity. I think that's where we should be living.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I was living for a while with these cards. So they just started to kind of come out, and there are so many that are, the rage one. Yeah. Can I read that one too?
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Okay. My rage. And actually, before I get into it, I do want to tell a little bit of the story. So this is actually and this person has given me permission to share this portion of the story without any identifying details, of course. But this person was doing work with their anger that they had been holding for, 30 years or something like that. And, as we start to work with these parts in IFS, we can, we use kind of the imaginal space because it's just infinite, and the possibilities are really endless there. And so as we were getting to the anger, right, had been kept in a box, or under the floorboards, right, for 30 years. And as it kind of emerged, it took the form of Animal from the Muppets.
Oh,
Animal. And you know how Animal has that giant mouth, and so this rage just kind of and we brought it to the desert, and it just just kind of in her imaginal space, just kind of raged in the desert. Yeah. So, and it was really touching. That was a really touching session to me in my own system. And I feel like for a lot of people, probably especially women who've had a lot of, maybe repression of anger over a long course of time. Right. So dedicated to all of us out there who identify with that. So my rage is too big to be put in a box or a room or the basement. She busts up through the floorboards like Kali, tongue out, armed with spears and swords, her neck draped in a garland of skulls. She needs a vast desert, open to the sky, the hot sun as her witness. Sound and memory pour from her throat. The primal scream of the power of change, finally free to fly out of her until she softens and becomes still.
Wonderful.
Centered now, ready to rest. Offer her thanks and a bed.
Wow. Have you read the book Big Magic?
Yes. The Elizabeth Gilbert one?
Yes.
Or,
I her other book, I guess it was good, the yoga book, but this book, Big Magic, I think that is it's pretty incredible, and it reminds me of the sort of the intensity that you kind of went at this. So people are to buy these postcards, sometimes send them to themselves, send them to someone that's having a hard time, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. So, and you can keep them, I kind of thought of them at first. My inspiration was to make them as like oracle cards. I was like, oh yeah, poetry, some message on the back. But then with the postcard, as I just started playing around, I thought, oh yeah, then you can share it with friends, or you can, mail it to yourself. That actually was not my idea. That came from a client who was like, oh, you could send it to yourself. We both had a freak out. So yeah.
You know what else you could do? You could hide them in books.
Ooh, I love that idea.
Then you go back to read them, and you find them or hide them in other people's books and don't tell them.
I was gonna say like the library or the bookstore.
Yeah.
Just plant them.
I started painting rocks, and I put some good messages on the back of them, and then for show purposes, I started handing them to the people, and on the back they said, "Your fly is open," or they said, "It's time for a breath mint." Or something like that. But all right. Well, these look great. So tell me more about, I'm actually really, really interested in your group of 8. How would someone, does it have, you have 8 or you have more than 8, right?
Well, we had 8, we now have 10. And there was I had a little bit of a growing process through that, of course, because I was like, it's 8. But then I went back to look at the book, and actually Lynn McTaggart, she's like, no, it can be anything from like 6 to 12 people. 12, you should probably break off and have another, group more than that. But so it really isn't that rigid around the 8. Her research was done with 8, with groups of 8. And anyone can start this. This is where, I've been trying to suggest it actually to lots of people, because it's been such an amazing community builder. And there's so many people out there who are desiring, spiritual community, but do not want to go to religion for it, do not want to go to some, dogmatic something with any sort of like guru or leader,
Yep.
And this just kind of cuts all of that out, and you just form your own norms and your own, style, and just do it at the frequency that you want to do it. Also, I believe, and I should have checked this out before actually talking to you about it, but I think there is a Power of 8 website. I'm kind of sure I could, follow up with that, but where you can, if you're interested, if you're living someplace where you're like Utica, maybe, where you're like, I don't have people here that I want to do this with.
Right.
I think that there are groups available where you can kind of put your name in and, have help finding a circle.
I see it. How to conduct a Power of 8 group.
Great. There it is.
Yes. And, so some of the thing with it is getting to know each other. It says people, as Greg Braden is attached to this somewhere, or that was an interview or something. And okay. So the thing is about getting to know each other, and almost like where they say that you should meditate in the same spot every day. And although I don't always do that, because I do my tarot on the road and sometimes in a hotel room and stuff like that, I did used to spend years in the same chair in Los Angeles, and other psychics would sit in that chair and be like, oh my God, what goes on here? This is fabulous. So it is almost about the consistency too, isn't it?
It is definitely. Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah. We've been meeting every week, and there are times, like summer gets busy, and so we've maybe stormed a little bit about that, or rumbled, let's say, a little bit with all of that. But it's a consistent thing, and then it kind of has branched out for us because we're all in the same town, that we have little. Like next weekend, a few of us are going to go, or half of us are going to go to like a saltwater float and do like a sound bath, Watsu kind of thing together, so we can just kind of accompany each other on our journeys. And then we're all parents in this group. So we all, a lot of times are sharing frustrations and consulting on how it is to be a parent. So there's so many benefits of it. And the consistency, it's been such an anchor for all of us.
I wish I found a way to say to people about finding their community I kind of want to say you could call it a meditation group, starting a meditation group. So you could do that at a yoga center or something like that. Like there has to be a way for people to do this, or on a Facebook page where it isn't about everybody getting it and then going, oh, that sounds dumb. Or, you know what I mean? Like just finding your people. That's
there are
really
people out
key.
There.
Yes, there are.
There are people out there. I mean, gosh, I sit across from people all day long who, talk about this particular, struggle of like, I'm alone. And so, I know for a fact there are people out there that are alone that want to be in community like this. And this is a really easy way to start.
And I have a Discord server and I don't know how to set it up. People on my Patreon could do it easily, but on my Discord server, I kind of feel like I don't know how to set that up, and I know people would like it, but it's a pain. It's another thing, and I'm trying to cut down. So I apologize.
Yeah. Well, maybe somebody out there listening is inspired to do it. Take it on.
Yes, or leave a comment on the Instagram for this or somewhere like that. So, so you have all this stuff going on. You have the integrated. Now, did you have paranormal experiences in your life before all this? Or I know you have had a few. Did they start after this? After this awakening, sort of? After this awakening? I know that's a weird.
No, that's okay.
I always feel like once we start opening these doors, we get more activity. Like some people, the activity was there and then the doors opened. But I guess I've always had haunted experiences. But I want to make a funny video about this. I'll tell you one of mine. Well, no, I'm going to skip that. I just wonder, have you always had paranormal experiences in your life?
I would say yes to that. And that I've gratefully never had a closed door to it. Let's say I've never had, like I was talking about with the skeptical bones in my body. I think they do exist, but they mostly are around people in the 3D, not really around that which is kind of around and unseen and in the different planes of existence. So yeah, I would say that probably if I scan through, I may not have recognized them as paranormal at that time, but they were probably around. But yeah, I think more. I mean, frequently, I think since the sort of the beginning of like awakening, life falling apart, I think much more than before.
Right. Okay. So in other words, too, when you say around other people, I mean, like, are you talking telepathy? Are you talking?
No, I'm mostly talking like when people are jerks.
Oh,
I would say that's when I'm like, oh, and not, I rarely say something like that. Like, from the IFS perspective, I would say that, somebody's parts are activated in a way that are, now activating my parts in turn. So I think that, maybe skeptic is equaling like the need for boundaries or,
okay. So not quite paranormal, like ghosty stuff, more metaphysical,
exactly.
like understanding. Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah.
All right. So what is next for the group of 8? What are some of the things you guys have focused on?
Oh, that's a good question. Let's see. New Year. Well, okay. We had a long period where we were focusing on rest and making rest more a portion of all of our lives and how to enable that. And so hence there's also been a bit of a focus on like deprogramming from like people pleasing and perfectionism and all the things that kind of block that from happening. So there's that focus. And you know what? I don't know. I'm actually quite curious to come back because I don't think we have made a decision on somewhat, we're going to focus a little bit also on like anti-racism work and like just becoming more, more aware of, our implicit biases and how we are in the world. And so I think we are going in a little bit more of kind of direction.
Of a healing way. Oh, that sounds great. Yeah. And also, do people come back and then say their experiences of how they thought this helped? Or do you just kind of keep, like, is it really that interactive?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, we usually do a check-in on how, the last week and, if there was any result. And the funniest one was there was one week where we kind of jokingly intended for one of the members to get a truck. And he did get the truck.
Oh, that's funny.
So we sometimes when somebody's like, I don't know if it'll be, worth focusing on this, we usually say, well, Ron got a truck. So
so it works on the micro level, the macro level, the 3D level, that's wonderful. Well, listen, Steph, this has been wonderful, and I love your cards, and I don't know if I'm going to mail them or hide them in other people's notebooks.
Ooh,
but yes, tell everyone where they can find you and where they can get the books, and if they want to send you an email about starting their own group of 8.
Definitely. All that is so welcome. My website is Soma, which is S as in Sam, O, M as in Mary, A, Spirit, one word. So somaspirit.com.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And there I have a contact page on there. And then, I know I'm grateful that we're not, this isn't airing till February. By February, things will be up and available. So you'll be able to find cards there. And also I have a course that I teach, which is called Moving Parts, which is integrating IFS therapy with yoga and other embodiment stuff to really make this stuff tangible. There's a quote that I use that's from Hillary McBride. It's to like reclaim the body as the primary place where we're living from.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. All right, my friend. Well, thank you for stopping by. Everyone check that out. I will have this information in the show notes. And then when we come back, we're going to go a little conspiracy. I just had to do
I want to hear that too.
Awesome. All right.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Hey, everybody. How's that spiritual awakening going? I know. Don't worry. Help is here. HighlySpiritualPerson.com is a haven for spiritual misfits and empaths navigating spirituality and mental health. My friend Camille has a plethora of resources on her site to help you on your spiritual journey, even if you're just starting out. It includes individual and collective Reiki sessions, personalized guided meditations, sleep affirmation tracks, and so much more. Camille has so much to offer. She's going to be on my podcast in December. I can't wait to talk to her. Her blog posts and podcast episodes explore spirituality and are great for folks carving out their own path. She has written 2 easy-to-follow guidebooks, one on breathwork, and the newest book is called Manifestation is Easy, and it features 22 step-by-step manifestation techniques, as well as tips and advice on how to overcome the most common blocks and start changing your reality. Go to HighlySpiritualPerson.com. I promise you, you will get lost in how much information is in there. It's one of my favorite rabbit holes. Hello, everybody. Welcome to part 3 of this podcast, which I had originally intended when I started to be talking about Tower 7, which I may get to some of this, but I wanted to do a deep dive. I don't know if you guys remember when I first started this podcast, I was doing a lot of deep dives on my own, and I miss that. But I'll be honest with you, just my plate is so full with my mom and Utica, but I got a couple of great stories for you and something else that I thought was just as interesting that just popped up this week. So this is coming out the 3rd week of February, and I am in the 2nd week of January. I know you guys know I'm so far ahead on all my podcasts, so even only a month ahead is not good for me. But what kept coming up over and over and over is what happened at the Bayside Mall in Miami. Now, if you haven't seen this, Google it, Instagram it, TikTok it, do whatever you do. I love TikTok. I know it's a lot of things even now are getting blocked on Instagram. So the story goes. I talked about this on my Patreon, and now it's gone a little bit further. So today's episode kind of is like my Patreon. If you join my Patreon at the $5 level, I do 2 30-minute episodes that are me talking about what I was seeing and what was going on. And this was so interesting. So the report comes over. You can see that there's this one piece of footage you see a lot of, which is, I heard 200 and then I heard 250 police cars surrounding the Bayside Mall. Okay? And you can clearly see this one. This is real. You're like, what is that? Why are there so many officers, right? And then they said what was reported from inside was 8 to 12 foot dark beings that were coming in and out of, you could see them, then you couldn't see them. That's basically what I heard. And I said, oh, how funny, that's a hoax. And I dismissed it. And a few things have come up back and forth, but I was kind of like, man, I'll tell you about the elves that are baking cookies behind my house that only I can see. But this in a mall, I don't know. So for whatever reason, so then I know a lot of police officers, and 2 different police officers from 2 different places in the country texted me and said, Karen, what happened at the mall in Miami? And I was like, wait, you guys are asking me? You're the police officers. I thought you would know, which just strikes me as funny, and how great that we're living in a time where police officers are asking conspiracy theorists and paranormal investigators what's happening. That's fantastic. So I started to look into it a little more. And then, of course, the algorithm was throwing tapes at me. And this is all of the thread. And I can't promise that all of it is true. So they the police cars were true. That is a true video. You can see it. It's kind of upsetting. So the report came in that there was a couple of kids having a gang fight. That story starts out with a couple of kids and then gets bigger as the story grows. Whatever. And then it turns into somebody was lighting fireworks, or I think they thought it was a terrorist attack. Whatever. It kind of... That's the surface. And you're saying, well, where is the video? Someone must have videoed on their phone, right? Right. There's no video. Okay. So then there are black helicopters, black ops, circling the place. Okay. Maybe everyone keeps going, well, sure, they wouldn't do that for a terrorist attack, but do you know Miami? Like Miami is so weird. And then there was a report that air traffic was stopped for like 2 hours or something at that time. So that's kind of all the stuff that's going around. And then I remembered, I know a police officer in Miami, and he's pretty high up. He probably would yell at me if I called him an officer, because he's probably a sergeant or a detective or something much higher. And I said, what happened? And he waited a little while, and then he texted me, and it was kind of like, no police report, no news, nothing on the wire, nothing on the radio. I don't know if he didn't say radio, but he was like, nothing. So I was like, nothing. And I sent kind of a picture of that to my other police officers. I said, this is what my friend said. Of course, no names are exchanging. Just the picture of that. And they were both like, what? That makes it worse, that it's like a media blackout. So I talked to 2 other people. This is the best answer I can give you, because this can't be a hoax. Maybe it was something different, but I am telling you, there is no reason that is completely suspicious that everyone's phones would be wiped. They said something about them collecting the video. You can't collect video off everyone's phone. That mall would have been closed down for 8 hours. So then kind of the other stuff sneaks in, where there are men in black visiting them. What was this? So if we're going paranormal, and I'm taking no side on this, but there were two people that kind of came up with this that I do think this resonates a little, which is just we are in this space where we talk about the veil getting thinner, that these were probably interdimensional creatures that didn't really know that they were going to be seen. And so they weren't really aware. And, kind of the joke is, well, maybe there was a good sale at the Gap. Maybe they had extra tall. There are a lot of jokes there on why the aliens would go, or they're not aliens. I'm going to scratch aliens. Why would these interdimensional beings be at the mall? Which is an interesting question, except that they wouldn't be at the mall. They would be in their dimension popping in and out of ours. So they're not like we're going to the mall. They're where they are, kind of crossing in and out. So it would be like if you went to the aquarium and you were looking at the fish, and then you could go in the fish tank and come out. It's kind of like that. And that answer actually kind of resonated and seems kind of hysterical to me at the same time. Like, these guys had to have a little meeting and be like, dude, you gotta cover up, man. They can see you now, which is funny. But isn't this what we all predicted was coming? So I will say I didn't have that theory. I really blew this off. So that was two people that kind of told me that I thought that's a pretty good, maybe that's what happened. So, but the hush with this is really something. And then, of course, everyone kept saying, and it's the day that the Epstein list came out, which I'm so sick of that crap. Nobody's going to arrest those people, whatever it is. I'm so furious. I can't look at the Epstein thing anymore. It is really just a distraction. And no one in power cares about what happened to those women. And it makes me crazy. So I'm kind of sticking, I'm going to stick with my two people. One was a YouTube person and one is a friend that kind of said that's what happened. But I can't wrap my head around everybody's footage was gone, or some people are going as far as to say is the Men in Black blanked out everyone's memory. Or I don't know how you do that. I don't know how that part I can't compute. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I can't compute it. I can't compute that there was really only one video I saw of a guy talking about this. So anyways, but I thought that was very funny. I love the story of of people asking me, I don't know what that was. But maybe we are on that edge. Like maybe that's where we're going. When I do a lot of tarot readings in a day and I go out and walk here in Utica, which you'll hear me speak next week on this when I talk to, excellent podcast next week with Melissa St. Hilaire. And, we were talking about how strange and how this land in Utica and upstate New York, all of upstate New York, is so damaged. Sometimes when I do a lot of readings and I will go out walking, this is mostly in the summer, my eyes will do something funny they've never done before, which puts these squiggles. Now, those are not, I'm not talking about floaters. I know floaters. These squiggles, two of them, come down as though reality is starting to rip open. And I'm like 2, maybe 3 hours from Lake George, which Lake George is like one of the 8 points in the world that it actually seems to be some sort of a landmark, like the pyramids, and like it comes up. That's what I should have done the deep dive on, is what is Lake George and why is it so important? There are a lot of shamans, like real shamans, not pop-up shamans, that have their retreats there that will come from like Peru and wherever to have a retreat at Lake George. So I wonder, as I walk and I see those things with my eyes, I always go, is reality going to rip right open here? Am I going to see am I going to see the Matrix? And then it goes away. but it's only happened here. I've never had it happen anywhere else. And it's always after I've done 3 to 5 readings. I usually try to only do 3 a day. But whenever, and I always wonder, am I in touch with something here? What is happening? And also, if you're on my Instagram account, and you've seen something, like, let's be honest, we're seeing a lot of things right now. Leave a comment or send me a message if you think you've seen anything like that. You know, lights in the sky have never, that's never been like lit me on fire. Because I don't know. I think that the United States, I think all of the United States and all these places have a lot of weapons that we don't know about. That was the first thing I thought those things in Miami were, is I said, I thought this was some sort of a hologram, because I have done a comedy show where they taped us and made us a hologram. Like, I'm not sure what happened to that after, because we went right into COVID. We went right into lockdown. But they were like, somebody sent me a video of them watching the hologram of me. I don't know if the place opened or what happened, but man, I was wearing a gorgeous dress that came out great as a hologram. So I really thought it was a hologram. A lot of people don't know that about what we want to call the psychic war. Lloyd Auerbach, who was my, I took a parapsychology class with him, and he was the best. I have to try and get him on the show again. He was busy, for a first time. He was busy, but his class was fantastic at the Rhine Institute. If you are really looking to take paranormal classes, they don't do as much psychic development or mediumship classes, but they do parapsychology and investigation, and it's all science-based. It's really fantastic. They actually do work with a lot of mediums for investigations, but they put them through a lot of rigorous training. So at the Rhine, Lloyd Auerbach wrote a book with another guy called ESP Wars that was about how the Russians thought, I don't know if it was us or them that started it, but like the Russians thought we were using psychics during the Cold War. So they started using psychics, and it's sort of how it was all word of mouth. And then or was it? Because then you get into remote viewing and stuff like that. But that's a very giant historical book about psychic wars. And that's a real thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was some way to have a hologram, or if we have figured out how to visit the malls. Who knows? Maybe right now there's a mall in Russia that we're checking the sizes of the clothes at the Gap. I don't know, but I think it's really, most of the predictions, 2024, we're going to see things we've never seen before. So I'm thinking, I still can't say 100%, but maybe I should have looked deeper. I mean, I really wrote that off. A lot of people I know also did. We're just like, Ryan Singer is still laughing at me that I haven't stayed writing it off. I have to have him back on just to talk about it. And I'm a pretty easy believer. I will admit that. So if I was like, this is a hoax, that was bad. My favorite, JK Ultra. If you're not following JK Ultra on Instagram, go follow her. Hopefully I can get her on the podcast, but I think she's too big for my little podcast. She is pretty convinced it is a no. It's a no. She does, she's kind of like me. She doesn't have all the answers. But what's really interesting is, she actually said something that the police officer in Miami said to me. She said, yeah, it's weird, or yeah, they don't do that. Maybe they don't do that for terrorist attacks, but you don't know Miami. And my police officer from there was saying it as though he said, yeah, it is weird, but it's Miami. But listen, if you're an 8-foot interdimensional creature, I'm figuring Florida is where you think you're going to fit in. So maybe that's where you go. There were probably weirder things going on at the mall than 12-foot creatures. But here's where it's even more interesting. She put up a tape saying it was a hoax, and Instagram put a warning on that tape saying it was misinformation. Like, I don't know if they didn't watch the tape, but whatever she said, where she said it was a hoax, they put up misinformation. Like, they had it backwards. Like, I was like, almost like, wait, she's on your side. Why is that blocked? So the plot thickens. Somebody knows. I only found one video of someone talking about what they saw there. And, yeah, here's what I will say. Twice in my life, I have gotten incredible photos. Taking ghost photography is one of the hardest things. Video, much easier, but spirit photography is like a 1 in a million. Certain people sort of get the okay, and I've had 2 pictures, and what they described as the way the interdimensional, what it looked like, what this guy kind of described it like, that is what I got, but what I got in pictures was white, like a white smoky thing like that, not like a person, not like a full apparition, like a white, it's not smoke, it's not like cigarette smoke, but it's a white type of smoke that sounds like how they were coming in and out. So anyways, that's it. All over the place today. Stephanie was great. I just sat and talked for 20 minutes. Apparently, I'm getting good at that. If you enjoyed this last 20 minutes, you can join my podcast. You get 2 of these a month. If you are a reader, remember on my Patreon, we do have the once a month we do live where you can come and safely try a new modality, a new reading with people. It's kind of like a little training group where you get to use your training wheels and give it a shot. More comedy dates coming. Please join my email list at karenrontowski.com, especially if you want to find out about comedy dates, because I send out a couple of emails a year, not too many, and that's where you can find where I'm going to be. All right, everybody, have a great day. May we all just get a good glimpse of a 8 to 10 foot dark interdimensional being. Thanks to Mike at Uno Rising Media. Have a great day.
Paranormal Karen, she's a spooky kind of queen. Paranormal Karen.